People all over the world praised Anthony Bourdain's cooking skills and honest, unfiltered stories, but his personal life was not always easy. Bain's ex-wife recently talked about their time together, revealing previously unspoken aspects of his personality and how he affected her life. What was Bourdain like behind the scenes? Join us as we explore this culinary legend's personal life and learn what his ex-wife finally revealed. Anthony Michael Bourdain was born in Manhattan in 1956. His parents were the Anthony got his writing skills from his editor Glass's father, Pierre, who worked in a photography store, and his social climbing father, Anthony. Anthony and his younger brother Christopher grew up in suburban New Jersey. Their parents, Rose, who was a Columbia Records executive and liked going out with friends, let the family travel a lot. Anthony later said he liked France because it had great runny, pungent cheeses and sausages, but when he was a kid, he liked going on a. During the summer break, a French fisherman pulled an oyster out of the water, threw it into the air, and gave it to him. That's when he fell in love with food, along with books and movies. Anthony got involved with the wrong crowd and fell in love with Nancy Pukowski at Dwight Englewood High School, despite many warning signs. Their relationship lasted until 1973, when Nancy graduated and went to Vassar, and Bourdain graduated a year early to follow her. After 2 years, he dropped out to study at the Culinary Institute of America. In 1978, Pukowski graduated from culinary school and moved to New York City. He married his wife and they were together for 20 years, but their chemistry was so strong that they couldn't stay away from each other. Like Bonnie and Clyde, they were high all the time and would sneak off to the walk-in whenever they could. In just 2 years in NYC, Bourdain's life went completely out of control first. His parents split up after 26 years of marriage then. He was promoted to surf working with 2 friends in the high-stress environment of being a professional chef, he turned to cocaine to stay awake during 12-hour shifts. Soon he graduated from party drugs to heroin. He wrote about the crazy adventures and underbelly of kitchen work. For example, one head chef hit on him and even got physical with him until Anthony had enough. He got even by driving a large carving fork between his boss's knuckles. After that, he never had to deal with his boss's wandering hands again, and he earned the respect of the kitchen staff. Rock-bottom Bourdain started taking methadone, but he stupidly still tried other drugs during a very bad time. When he was at his lowest, he turned to crack cocaine. He would dig through the carpet with his fingernails to find small pieces of rock, but he often ended up smoking white paint chips instead. Desperate and hooked on crack, rock bottom was still waiting for him in the wrong place at the wrong time. After cleaning up and rubbing shoulders with 3 failed restaurants, Anthony worked for a boss he called the Silver Shadow. The mob ran his restaurant empire, and Bourdain's kitchen was where all the crime. Cooks were Anthony's boss's coke dealers, and he started cleaning the place with cocaine and the Silver Shadow. In 1987, Anthony was working at an oyster bar in the East Village when he learned that his father had died of a heart attack at the young age of 57. Even though he was sad, Bain knew that he would eventually have to deal with bigger problems. Anthony finally got his act together and signed up for a writing workshop at Columbia in 1988. In the mid-1990s, he got a job as executive chef at a fancy Tuscan restaurant run by a famous chef Tourbin. Thought this was his big break. But he was just setting himself up for another fall. He was becoming the best version of himself after almost 20 years of hard work. When Leal hired Bourdain as executive chef, he had found his calling. His bosses gave him free rein to run the kitchen, hire and fire staff, and serve a variety of French food that he was proud of. They also respected him enough to give him time off for Stand By Your Man. Nancy was always there for Anthony, even when they were addicted to drugs or had bad jobs. By the 1990s, their cocaine-fueled party lives had turned into a stay-at-home life of takeout and reruns of The Simpsons. Anthony rarely traveled except for an annual trip to the Caribbean with Nancy. See Kitchen Confidential changed Bourdain's life forever, but it had a terrible side effect. Nancy had supported her husband in both his culinary and literary endeavors, but when producers asked him to, she had a bad feeling in her stomach. His next book, A Cook's Tour 2001, was turned into a 35-episode TV show called Crash and Burn. Bourdain seemed sure of himself, knowledgeable, insightful, and funny, and his books and novels had legions of fans. His TV show No Reservations ran from 2005 to 2012, but behind all the passion and bravado, the celebrity chef was a mess. He'd go back to St. Martin, where he often vacationed with Nancy, and one night tragedy almost took him. Love is in the Air came after Kitchen Confidential, and Bourdain became close friends with French Chef Eric knew that Anthony was lonely and depressed after his divorce, so he set him up with restaurant hostess Octavia Buzia in the hopes that a night out with a pretty girl would cheer him up. Instead, they got more than they expected. On their second date, Anthony and Bisa got matching tattoos and started a serious relationship. Everyone wanted a piece of Anthony's pie. Anthony was depressed, hard on himself, and a people pleaser. When he was filming, editing, and going on book trips for 8 months a year, Lewis and Iron often joined him. But when his daughter started elementary school, that became impossible. That night, Anthony wrote a long, heartfelt email to Nancy saying he was sorry for hurting her. His past relationships haunted him, but this time his close call with death made him want to change. In 2016, the travel show host met Asia Argento, an Italian actress, singer, and director who was 41 years old, while filming an episode of Parts Unknown in Italy. Anthony bravely stood up to support the Me Too movement after Asia's death. Argento, a 21-year-old film producer, said Harvey Weinstein raped her at Cannes Film Festival in 1997. Octavia Buzia thought her ex-husband's public crusade was noble at first, but he became obsessed with it. Bourdain's troubled mind caused him to lash out at his friend David Change, saying he wouldn't make a good father. He also told another friend that he thought was under so much stress that he developed agoraphobia. Finally, Anthony saw a doctor and took drastic steps after his fame led to a lot of failed relationships and a bad work relationship. Parts Unknown was ready to film in Hong Kong when the show's director got sick. When Bourdain got into a fight with the show's cinematographer, things went badly. The crew was shocked because this was so out of character for Bourdain. Asia had changed Anthony, and everyone could see that their first project together was a failure. Everyone except Anthony Roman Holiday Anthony said that the Hong Kong episode was the most intensely satisfying experience of my professional life and a show that He was happy for the first time in a long time, but things were about to fall apart. In the first week of June 2018, paparazzi photos of a man named Hope Kills You or Ordained were published in tabloids. He had been filming in northeastern France with frequent collaborator Eric Ripert when he learned about the photos. Anthony was so angry that he took to Instagram to post the opening sequence from the Italian movie Violent City, 1970. The Petoskey revenge movie starts with paparazzi photos of A few days later, on June 8, 2018, Bourdain missed breakfast and dinner, so he went to his close friend Anthony's hotel room to check on him. Instead, he found Anthony dead in his room. He had hanged himself. Anthony Bourdain was 61 years old. It is said that before he killed himself, Bourdain punished himself by Googling his girlfriend Asia Argento 300 times in an escort service. His biography told his son that soon after Anthony's death, a new, unapproved book came out that showed intimate and raw details of his personal life and his relationship with Asia Argento. Families were very upset about it and did everything they could to keep the book from coming out until many mistakes were fixed. But the unauthorized author still put out the heartbreaking book. Afterward, Argento called her boyfriend my love, my rock, and my protector. His millions of fans around the world were devastated. Bourdain's brother Christopher remembers picking up flowers and cards that fans left outside of Bazaar Lal. Christopher also brought Anthony's cremated remains from Paris to the U.S. In a tearful interview with the UK's Daily Mail months after her suicide, she said, "People say I murdered him." Then she dropped a 20-megaton bombshell by saying she and Anthony were in an open relationship before admitting she cheated on him in texts after his death in 2016. Anthony wrote to his estranged wife via Bourdain, "I hate my fans too. I hate being famous. I hate my job." He also wrote, "I am lonely and living in constant uncertainty." After photos of Argento with other partners came out, the couple exchanged a heated text message. "I am okay," she wrote. Argento told him, "I can't take this. You're irresponsible and free. You risk my heart and my life." She could handle his jealousy, so what could Bourdain do? A day later, she told him, "Stop busting my balls." He replied, "Okay, where there's smoke, there's fire." In her own words, Asia's revelation made people wonder how someone could cheat in an open relationship. According to her close friend, actress Rose McGowan, the couple loved without borders of. They set the rules for their relationship early on, and Asia is a free bird. And so is Anthony. Her words were different from Anthony's friend's description of the ill-stricken teenage boy who was addicted to Asia Argento and wanted to live with her. Why was he so angry and devastated when he found out she was seeing another man? More importantly, why did he commit suicide? It didn't make sense. However, the controversy about whether smoke breeds fire and denial continued. 2 months after his death, the New York Times accused Asia of Argento of sexual assault in August 2018. She and Anthony Bourdain are also said to have paid $380,000 to Jimmy Bennett, a child actor who played her son in a movie. Bennett accused her of sexually abusing him at age 17 in a California hotel room, even though California's consent age is 18. Asia was 37 at the time, and she denied doing anything wrong with Bennett, saying that her late boyfriend paid him off. Argento said she misread the report. Anthony wanted the matter to be kept private, which Bennett agreed to. Anthony was worried that a dangerous person could have gotten us bad press, so Bennett asked for help, and we gladly gave it. "I would do anything for you," Anthony Bourdain said about Asia Argento. They started dating when he supported her as a Me Too activist, and they broke up when he paid her ex-boyfriend for sexual assault charges. Asia and 7-year-old Jimmy Bennett starred in The Heart is Deceitful Above All Things in 2004, where he saw his girlfriend laughing and dancing. Anthony was devastated by the scandalous claims against Asia, and his involvement must have made him feel even worse. Voice from Beyond the Grave in the June 2021 documentary Roadrunner. Many of Anthony's closest friends and co-workers were seen kicking the hornet's nest, but there was no footage of Anthony saying the 3 quotes Morgan mentioned. Neville needed to give all of his Bourdain audio clips to a software company that used AI to make his voice sound like Tony. The film didn't say that it wasn't Tony speaking, but Neville's controversial picture went from frying pan to fire. Commentators questioned the morality of bringing the chef back to life after the controversy. Neville said he had AI consent. Batavia Busia, who broke her silence to speak in the film, tweeted, "I certainly wasn't the one who said Tony would have been cool with that." Roadrunner has shocking implications. It reveals many of Bourdain's last month and makes 2 points. First, the normally friendly host became irritable and uncooperative. His team complains. It's more likely that Anthony's relationship problems with Asia Argento led to his suicide. To make matters worse, Neville didn't invite Argento to read her Italian autobiography because he thought including her would make the story too complicated. Asia would have said, "People don't understand me and our relationship. I adored him." Neville also said that including her side would turn his film into a he said lawsuit and narrative quicksand. And when I swear I don't have a gun when Bourdain. Anthony had looked into the abyss so many times that not even his closest friends knew he was suffering. In a 2001 Guardian interview about Kitchen Confidential, Bourdain talked about how unhappy he was with his newfound fame and refused to accept it. He also said some disturbing things before the interview. Bourdain told the interviewer, "Don't worry about Ernest Hemingway's suicide. Putting a gun to my head won't finish it. I can live with this self-loathing." Neville told Rolling Stone that the celebrity chef's suicide was an suicide attempt that was not planned and lasts for 90 minutes. Freedom Fries in 2016. The White House asked Anthony to join the president for a lunch in parts unknown, which had been planned for months. Obama and Anthony shared a bowl of pho and a beer at a little noodle cafe in. After their meal in Hanoi, Vietnam, Anthony said he knew Obama was jealous because he was going for a scooter ride. Anthony then went to Rouen, France, but got a severe skin infection. He took medicine on an empty stomach after 3 painful days from a doctor, and soon Anthony passed out and woke up in a restaurant doorway with a waiter trying to revive him. This funny turn reminded him of his father's untimely death from a heart attack, and his mom believed in him. The New York Times hired glasses after decades. The experienced editor knew good journalism, but she and her paper couldn't run her son's essay. She asked the editor of The New Yorker to publish it. The piece started Anthony's second act. He might not have become the cult character we love and miss without her insistence. Right, the editor had to publish the piece right away. Anthony signed with a publisher to write Kitchen Confidential, his 2000 memoir, a week after the New Yorker story came out. It was a good time after years of part-time work. He was deeply in debt and behind on rent and taxes. Kitchen Confidential was a tonic, but more than that. No solutions have been found for Anthony Bourdain's mental health and relationship problems in his last days, as shown in Empire State of Mind. Roadrunner filmmaker Neville knew both sides of Anthony and Asia's relationship. He told Rolling Stone, "I want to be clear, I don't think Asia made Tony kill himself. Someone even says that in the film Tony wanted her fitness. He says in the film, I'm dating a crazy Italian actress and it's not going to end well.